Hi folks, it's Gabe here talking to you about crypto regulation. Now I understand that that's anathema to many of you in the crypto sphere, but my background in the law is in the regulatory field specifically, and I actually happen to be working in government when they began looking at some of these cryptocurrency regulations. Now remember, this is a quickly changing landscape, and I'm going to keep you up to date as much as I possibly can, but let me break down what I'm seeing in terms of cryptocurrency regulations in 2022. In short, we'll cover the new provisions as written in the Infrastructure and Investments Act. We'll also talk about other cryptocurrency regulations already in place and what may be coming in the future. So what that means in terms of content is that today, while I loved my administrative procedure class, we called it Leg Reg in law school, we're actually going to discuss things like what coins one can buy, your tax liability, and what hoops one must potentially jump through in order to trade currency. Now, Lana Del Rey once sang, "Money is the anthem." And so you're wondering what's going to happen to BTC, for example, if that industry is more heavily regulated? Well, no one can say definitively. For example, if particularly restrictive regulations were to be put into place, it could affect the crypto market. For example, when China put their overall ban, that definitely affected the price of BTC in the short run. On the other hand, a regulation that requires exchanges to keep more accurate records or be less influenced by market manipulators could lead more conservative investors to join in on the crypto train, which of course would lead to higher prices. Fortunately for crypto investors, the United States is doing a lot to appease crypto exchanges and make them function a little bit more like banks. And that means that the overall climate seems to be favorable towards crypto exchanges. The more digital currencies become like banks, in a sense, the safer they become, which can ultimately lead to higher prices. Now let's jump into the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Now, you may be tempted to glaze over this, but I promise you this is important when it comes to your tax bill at the end of the year. In November 2021, cryptocurrencies were mentioned for the first time in United States legislation, where various little cryptocurrency provisions were put in the act, and that was the first time that's really happened. These provisions referred to cryptocurrencies as digital assets. Any digital representation of value which is recorded on a cryptographically secured distributed ledger or any similar technology as specified by the Secretary. According to this new law, any company or person who transfers digital assets on behalf of another person will now be considered a broker. As a result, every centralized cryptocurrency exchange must now issue a Form 1099-B to each customer and to the IRS. That means that centralized exchanges like Kraken, Binance, or Coinbase has to keep a record of each transaction made, and they have to keep a record of the amount of P&L basically on that. So any profit and loss on any particular sale has to be sent to the IRS. For a cryptocurrency investor, this means that if you were trying to hide before, it's going to be more difficult because not only do you know now your profit and loss, but the IRS will also know it. So in a sense, I think it makes it easier for all of these upstanding citizens to actually just keep a nice record of your profit and loss on your sales of various cryptocurrencies. Now, this is not going to go into effect immediately, but this is something to keep in mind going forward. Just because this is the first time it's been mentioned by an act of Congress, this does not mean it's the first time we've ever had any regulation regarding cryptocurrency, because of course, tons of different federal agencies have had things to do with cryptocurrency so far. For example, back in the day, you didn't even have to prove who you were to buy a cryptocurrency. You could just buy it. There was no know your customer type of regulation. So we call those KYC regulations. Now, back in 2013, the US Financial Crimes Enforcement Network was like, wait a second, you guys have to, legitimize who these customers are. We need to know what's actually happening when it comes to money being moved around. That's when crypto exchanges in that realm of enforcement got the name money services businesses. And the important point of knowing that is that this is why you have to upload a photo, your identification, and your actual, government name when it comes to signing up for most cryptocurrency exchanges. Technically, for example, a lot of foreign exchanges would get in trouble with the United States if they tried to serve United States customers and they didn't go about doing it in the proper way. This is all because of FinCEN's regulations, and that, of course, is the US Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It really doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Now, if you are a foreigner trying to get into your foreign exchange, remember to check out our best VPNs list. We have them somewhere here. You'll see a card. You can check out some of our best VPNs. Now, remember, if you're based in the United States, there are a number of US-based exchanges. You have Crypto.com, you have Binance, you have Gate.io, you got eToro, you got CoinMama, you got, did I say Kraken? I mean, Coinbase, Crypto.com. I mean, you got a lot of them. So we've talked a little bit about regulations and the present tense and things of that nature, but let's talk about where all the arguments in the crypto space come from. Now, I get to be a bit of a nerd, and we can briefly talk about SEC versus Howey. And you're saying, oh, SEC versus Howey is related to cryptocurrency. When did this happen? 2000, 2010, 2015? No, this is from 1946. And this is essentially the test that is being used to this day to classify cryptocurrencies as securities, which is a whole thing in itself. Now, in the United States, stocks and securities are governed or regulated by the SEC, that's the Security and Exchanges Commission. They're basically what you hear in every fun documentary going after someone for, some type of securities fraud of some sort or another. Now, in order to kind of classify these things as securities, the SEC uses the Howey Test, and this comes from 1946. Now, I won't get into too many of the facts regarding SEC versus Howey because it's about a land contract issue in the state of Florida. And if we talk about Florida, we're going to get into some really wild territory. But what's important is that it does give us the Howey Test. Now, according to this test, a token is a security if 1, it's an investment of money, 2, in a common enterprise, 3, with the expectation of profit, and 4, to be derived from the efforts of others. Now, this is why many cryptocurrencies have been defined as securities. Now, to be clear, if a cryptocurrency is completely decentralized and made only for mining, then it is not necessarily considered a security. Now, let's take a quick example of what this means in practice. Now, if a developer creates a token and gives that, or sells that rather, to developers, and they have that expectation that it will go up in value, then according to the Howey Test, it is now a security. Now, on the other hand, utility tokens represent a right to a good or service. They do not get their value from the work of others, so utility tokens are generally not considered securities. Now, the Infrastructure Jobs and Investment Act did have those cryptocurrency provisions that had a lot to do with the IRS, but that doesn't mean that the IRS hasn't been paying attention beforehand. That has definitely been the case. Now, in a notice on crypto taxes, the IRS has already stated that cryptocurrency is property, and therefore buying, receiving, selling cryptocurrency can have tax consequences. Now, if you sell a good or service in exchange for cryptocurrency, the crypto has to be in the same value of US dollars as the good exchange. Otherwise, it can do one of two things. Now, if the good you sold is worth more than the crypto that you got for it, then that essentially means it was a gift and it will increase that person's tax liability. Now, if the good you sold is worth less than the crypto that you received, then it can increase your tax liability. Now, just a quick note, sometimes developers send out like airdrop crypto and you can just get it. And basically that is treated as ordinary income, and therefore you'll be taxed on what that was worth at the time that you received it. Finally, when it comes to buying and selling crypto, it is basically going to be treated like capital gains in the sense that if you buy it at one price, you sell it at another, capital gains tax. If you basically lose, that's a loss, and you can write that off as a loss. So that's how one must think about cryptocurrency when it comes to tax liability and capital gains. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the various regulations out there. Now, let's talk about what may come in the future. Now, I have a lot to say regarding regulations as they come out, what has already happened. I mean, even since I started writing this video, things have changed, and each state is different. And I'd love to put out a video in each state. Like, I'm in New York, but there's also Texas, there's California, there's massive states, there's little states, and they're all doing different things when it comes to cryptocurrency. I mean, heck, some other countries are doing, a lot. El Salvador. Anyway, so let's just jump into what may come to pass. For example, wash sales. Wash sales are stocks, mutual funds, other securities are subject to a wash sale rule, which means that if you sell a stock at a loss and then you immediately buy it back at a lower price, you can't claim the loss for tax purposes. However, crypto is considered property, not an investment. So if you have some crypto, you sell at a loss, and then you immediately buy it back because, is a good price and you want the same amount of crypto, well, you can essentially write that off. So you can expect that, or maybe not, that loophole may be closed. So in January 2022, a lot of US agencies engaged in a crypto sprint. And that basically means they were reviewing, analyzing, basically trying to deepen their knowledge on the following areas. 1, bank custody of crypto assets. What are they going to do about that? 2, sales of crypto assets by banks. 3, stable coin issuance. 4, crypto as collateral for bank loans. And rules for holding crypto on a balance sheet. So these are some things that you're definitely going to see some more regulations coming into play in the near future. And of course, as always, this can go both ways. And I know you're tired of me saying that, but that's just the nature of the market. Because basically, if these things are implemented, crypto becomes more accessible, then boom, maybe we have a massive, buy-in and crypto goes up in price. On the other hand, it can mean that banks come to monopolize the industry. Maybe it stifles innovation to some extent. Maybe we get some of the systemic problems we have with banks and cryptocurrency instead of the other way, or maybe they could take the best of both approaches. Either way, who knows what's going to go down. Regardless, as an investor or whatever you are in cryptocurrency, you're definitely going to want to keep a close eye on future developments, and hopefully I will have the capacity to keep you updated as things unfold. All right, so the struggle between business and markets and regulatory landscape continues as it has since the dawn of man. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening and have a nice wide view of a lay of the land, be sure to subscribe to Security.org, where we're giving you the most each week when it comes to digital and physical security. My name is Gabe. This is Security.org. Be secure.